Welcome back to the Balance Sheet Podcast, where we cover all things women's wrestling. And again, we are getting spoiled here because we have another spectacular week of women's wrestling to discuss. And it's going to start at the exact same place it started the last 2 weeks, which is money does change everything. Or in this case,
Yes, it does.
Moné changes everything because Mercedes Moné has just been on an unbelievable run of classic matches. Like I said, it started out in DC in a match I attended against Momo, and that match was really good. Like, really good. I
Great.
don't think enough people watched it. I don't think it got enough praise for how good it was. I was in that building, it was electric. They did some cool stuff. And of the last four matches she's had in terms of, I guess, premium live events, pay-per-views, whatever you want to call them, it was the worst of the four. So that is the kind of run she has been on. So she had Kris part one, which everybody thought was match of the year, only for her to come the next week or week and a half or whatever the duration was, and have what many consider now the best match ever in North America for women's wrestling, including in some circles thinking it's better than Sasha Bailey Brooklyn.
Yep.
So now we talked about this last week. How are they going to do Mercedes Kris part two so quick? Is the outcome going to be different? Are they going to go time limit draw? Uh, Okada Omega style. By the way, spoiler alert, that's now back in the AEW landscape. And they had last night a hell of a match for a part two. And I have my analogy here in a sec about how I look at both of these matches. And you got to see the match last night. I know you attended a football game, which
Yep.
was, I will say this. I don't have much respect for Rams fans in LA because they always get taken over by the other team. But last night they were really good. That was a
Yeah, it was
really
loud.
good, that was a loud crowd. And I was impressed with how much they were into that game and how many Rams fans I saw in attendance. So I know you were heading home from the football game and you got to watch the match. So I'll kick it right to you. What are your thoughts about the match?
Yeah, so yeah, we went to the game last night. First time at SoFi Stadium. Really cool. The interception that sealed the game was it got loud in there. It was cool because I've never been in a game where such a big replay swung in the balance, and they showed it to us
Okay.
on the huge screen, and I, like a weirdo, I'm sitting there jumping up and down. I'm like, that's a catch, that's a catch. But no, it was good. But got home, obviously saw on Twitter that Kris and Mercedes tore it up. And I watched it last night. Actually, it was very late here, so no commentary, no crowd noise. So I watched it just the match, and I mean, I thought it was incredible. I probably need to watch it again with everything. Um, I lean towards it being better than the first one, which is crazy. It's crazy. Um, the Hazuki match, which won Sports Illustrated Match of the Year for the women, in which Mercedes had three of the top 10 matches. And I would venture to say that this match last night, which wasn't part of that list, would have made the list as well. Um, no, it was fantastic. I love watching Mercedes wrestle. Um, I always compare her to Bret Hart, and what it reminds me of is she does these um, things during a match. They're not even spots. Like they're not the type of spots that get clipped and put on Twitter, but they connect a wrestling match in a way that makes it feel like a fight. I love the triple kind of jawbreaker thing that she did, um, where she grabbed her,
Mhm.
busted down to one knee, busted down to the next knee, and then busted down, and then she rubs her head after, like, God, that kind of hurt. But like, those are the things that when you're watching something is performative, you feel like it's a fight. So that's actually one of the things that stood out to me. I haven't seen it clipped on Twitter, but I was just really into the match and things like that draw me in. Uh, the Seven Amigos. Was it seven?
Yeah,
Seven
seven.
Amigos. Uh, look how many she can do when someone's not sandbagging her, right?
Yeah.
Um, but no, I I'm gonna rewatch it again today, but I'm just kind of in awe. She just 4 short months ago, people were questioning, she was over the hill, at the ripe old age of what, 32, about to be
Mhm.
33, and man, as she shut everyone up. A lot of the WWE accounts, instead of talking about her ability now, they're talking about how they're back to crowd size. She should be doing
Yeah.
this in front of, millions of people. It's funny, I'll kick it back to you real quick. Whether you wish Sasha Banks was still around, the Hazuki match and this match, she can't have that match in WWE. They won't let her. They don't let them have that match in WWE. Now, would Triple H, if she comes back one day, is he going to let her do matches like this? Maybe, but she spent 10 years there and they didn't let her have matches like this. It was 25 minutes and they were as physical and, dare I say, dangerous as the men's matches. And
Mhm.
that's why she's there, because they're going to let her put together masterpieces like this.
Yeah, so last week, and by the way, I've put this up on Twitter. I know you have as well, that by far of any episode we've ever done, it was by far our most successful episode. I mean, the streams, were about 55% above the previous week, which was our previous high. Downloads were the all-time number. And we used a lot of analogies last week, Michael Jordan. And
Hmm.
that's what this reminded me of, the 1995 losing to Orlando Magic Michael Jordan, who was written off and has come back with vengeance. And she has come back with vengeance. I mean, she has literally went from, does she still have it, to unquestionably, she's the best women's wrestler in the world, or she's in the top three or top two or whatever you want to rank, depending on what you like. But she's no lower than third. And I don't think anybody, if they're being honest, can say she's third. You
Right.
bring up another really good point, and I want to pivot there about Mercedes. Mercedes, you're right. She can't have these type of matches in WWE, whether people want to believe that or not. And I understand Triple H is the guy in charge. Shawn Michaels is also very important there, and they both are huge, Mercedes fans as wrestlers. And if any two guys in WWE would give her the platform, it would be them. But you know why I don't agree that they would? Because then they haven't done it with Io. And what I
Right.
mean by that is, in 2017, I want everybody to go back. This is dark ages for Mercedes Sasha Banks. So 2017 to 2019 pre-Blue Air was dark ages stuff. I
Not
mean,
good.
she was just on TV to be on TV because she could pop a little bit of a rating, and she was always good with the crowd. She was not having what I considered matches to her caliber of talent. I mean, she was in there with lesser talent. They were given 3 minutes. I vividly remember a match with her and Mandy Rose the day after WrestleMania, after the Battle Royal, and I think their match was like 4 minutes, and
Yep.
Mandy Rose just rolled her up. And I remember Io Sky or Io Shirai 2016, 2017 Io. He was having killer matches in Japan. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, doing stuff, spots, stuff that you didn't really see at that time. And she was able to have that platform. And that's why they thought she was the best women's wrestler in the world, because she was given the platform and Sasha Banks was on TV losing in 4 minutes. Now the roles are reversed. Io is being held down a little bit by WWE and what they allow the women to do. Like, everybody raves about her match with Bianca, and I love that match. And it's might make my list, it might not. I don't know at this point because it's so much has come after it. It's 13 minutes. It was 13 minutes on
Yep.
TV with two commercial breaks. But on WWE women's pay-per-views, if we are having an honest women's wrestling conversation, they've had one really good match this year. One really, really good match, which is Bailey and Io. After that, the WWE women who are super talented have all the ability to have these type of matches that we saw last night. Haven't really had it on pay-per-view. They just
Yeah.
haven't. But then you take Io and put her in Japan with Utami, and what'd you get? You
Top
got a
10 match.
masterpiece, right? You
Yeah.
got one of the best matches of the year. So I know people don't love, again, the hardcore WWE fans. That's my team. Sasha Banks was my fave, but she abandoned ship. She went to the enemy. I don't like her anymore. Whatever. The truth is, she cannot have these matches in WWE. She can't, because WWE is a lot of entertainment. They have to have 30-minute profile pieces in between matches. They have to have commercials. They have to have spot reads, and they have to have 5 to 10 minute entrances. Still,
Yep.
probably she could. I think the best match you could get from a WWE pay-per-view women's match in 2024 might be what we got at Charlotte Rhea WrestleMania. Maybe they got a lot of
And and
time.
and famously, Charlotte went almost 15 minutes long in that
Mm-hmm.
match. So it was 12 minutes long. It was 23 minutes and they were slated for 11.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlotte was out there and she felt the lather building and the match starts bad. It's not good. It doesn't start good. And they started to get some momentum. And if you don't know the story, Charlotte told Rhea in the ring, she's like, we're gonna have this full match.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of called the middle and all that on the fly, stiffed the hell out of each other on some of those punches. And then the other famous part, which I'm not back there, I can't confirm. I don't think you could confirm either. Rhea got in trouble, Charlotte didn't
Yeah.
when they got back because they had to cut time in some of the other matches. But good on Charlotte.
Rhea got in so much trouble that she never lost a match
That's
and got injured, and was main eventing every Raw and main evented a stadium show in Australia.
she got a
What a
talking to.
yeah, what a punishment for their
Yeah,
their biggest female star in terms of merchandise, that she didn't lose a match. She came back the next year at WrestleMania, beat Becky clean as a sheet, and then just relinquished the title because she got injured. So, I mean, yeah, I guess she got a talking to, but it felt like her talking to was, I mean, hey, don't do that again, Rhea. We promise we'll punish you, but they really never do. No, it is frustrating as a fan of Io and Bianca and Rhea and Liv and Tiffany, that on the main roster on TV they do get a lot of time. You cannot deny that WWE allows the women to have a lot of time on TV. They do. Raw, SmackDown, they get time.
much
The
better
six
stories. Yeah,
the six women match on SmackDown, they got a lot of time. But when it comes to those premium live events, they always get 40% of the card. Like they'll have 5 matches, the women will get 2, but the women will never get maybe the time the men do, or even if they do, for whatever reason, they don't deliver. I mean, after Bailey Io, what is the second best women's wrestling match on a WWE premium live event this year?
Becky Rhea, which was before Io Bailey.
That it's the same card. Both happened at WrestleMania.
No, it wasn't the better match though at the never mind. No, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
the same card. Both WrestleMania. Um, one was night one, one was night two. But
Tiffany, Naomi, and Bailey but yeah, I mean it's
Tiffany Naomi Bailey was really good. You're talking about the one in Saudi Arabia.
yes.
Yeah, that was a good match. But if that is your number 3 WWE women's pay-per-view match, and in the last 4 weeks, Mercedes has had 3. I mean, I could make a case Mercedes has had 3 better matches in the last 4 weeks than any WWE woman has had on pay-per-view. And I know people are going to say, well, Bailey Io. I love Bailey Io. It's a great match. I watched it last night. I'm not going to spoil my list, but you're going to be hard pressed to convince me that that was a better match than either Mercedes Kris matches or the Hazuki match. It's definitely not better than the Hazuki match. I'll listen to you about Kris because of the story, because it's like, well, at least Bailey and Io had the better story going in. They had the character buildup of Bailey. They had the she finally overcomes damage control using her stuff. The crowd was much hotter. Look, WWE is very helped right now by their crowds. They
Oh,
can take an average match and propel it. Like, take Bianca Io and put that same match in AEW. Is it the same match? I don't know, because I feel like the crowd for Bianca and Io was as part of the story as the match. And the shock that Io won.
yep. It's a theme we've been going through for the last couple months. And it's like we're trying to give credit where credit's due. And then we're also trying to push the envelope for
Mhm.
each company to fix where their faults are. WWE, tons of credit for women's storylines and TV time. Tons of credit. We
Yeah.
did a whole episode about it, what, a
Yeah.
month or two ago. They're developing characters. They're deep. I think we said they're 20 to 25 women deep that if you watch the show, you know and care about. That's fantastic. Um, so all that's better than ever. And then AEW, it's the reverse. They're not giving them enough TV time. They get, maybe 12 minutes of a dynamite. If we're lucky, a lot of their storyline driven stuff is on Collision and Rampage, where much less people are watching. Um, but on the PLE, Mariah May and Thunder Rosa had their Tijuana Street match last night. Mercedes and Kris had got 25 minutes with no stip, and it was the longest match of the night. And they had more ring time than anyone except for Osprey and Okada because they wrestled twice.
Mhm.
So um, it's like you're getting the one thing in the one company and the other thing in the other company, and I think the WWE women for the normal star wrestler, there's absolutely plenty of room for them to spread their wings and have very good matches. Um, I think Io and Mercedes are like wrestling sickos though, right? So um, there's that different level of match that they're capable of having and want to have. And I think people just got to understand this what Mercedes is getting to do is more important to her than just the TV time and
Mhm.
just feeling good about, the character. This is like as she writes her story, her history, she wants it to be filled with these just incredible, memorable matches that will stand the test of time. And you know what? After what they did to her in 2017, 18, and beginning of 19, you can't blame her that she's decided to go do it somewhere else. And people might think it's dramatic, and I know they treated her very well from 19 to beginning of 22, but she got I don't think she had one match over 11 minutes over that over a year, maybe till the Ronda Rousey match.
I
From the
think the Asuka,
Alexa Bliss SummerSlam, or maybe when she lost the title 8 days later. For Rousey, she didn't have an 11-minute singles match. I would almost bet it.
oh, I mean, let's look at it a different way.
Now the
The
Bailey match, I'm
Alexa,
wrong, but
no. The Alexa Bliss match that she had on not on SummerSlam, right?
yeah,
From 2017 to, I believe, the Ronda Rousey match. That is what, a year and a half. She didn't have a singles match on pay-per-view.
right.
He had a five-way in September where John Cena fought Roman Reigns. That was like in LA. The main event was Cena Reigns.
I think she had a kickoff match against Alicia Fox.
He did. That was in October. Yeah, she had that match. That was it. But I don't count kickoff matches as
No,
pay-per-views. Um, 2018, she had an all-time match. A lot of people thought it was one of the best women's matches that they saw in North America, which is her and Asuka on the unannounced. They just threw it out there for whatever, and then they kind of exceeded expectations in Philadelphia. But the problem with that match, and I have been very critical of it, is that it was a great match. It was. But Mercedes has zero chance of winning. Asuka was unbeaten at that point, and she just won the Rumble. She's not going to lose the next night on a random Raw. Like,
But see
she's
that,
just not. Yeah.
yeah, and shame on me for forgetting that match because I love that match. But that was indicative of how they were treating her.
Hmm.
She was just a quick pelt on the wall for Asuka,
Hmm.
whereas in 2015, 2016, when Asuka was coming to NXT and We Want Sasha was the thing, if you would have looked at the fans and said, hey, one day these two are going to wrestle on a throwaway match at Raw. Now, they're so great, it won't be a throwaway match, but the way it was booked, where it was booked, was a throwaway match. But Vince, you know, piece of shit, and just that's just where it was at the time. But that match, the first Asuka Sasha Banks match could have main evented any program if they put the time into it. But
Could have main evented that Raw. It didn't
yeah,
even do that, right?
right. WWE will have a chance though coming up. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but Rhea and Liv has been named a last woman standing match. So I can't imagine that goes less. I could see it going 30 to be honest.
It's on Netflix, so they don't really have time restraints. Like they can, I've heard rumors that they can make shows 3 hours, they can make shows 2.5. It's all how they feel going into it, right? Like how they want to book. This is for all intents and purposes, this is like WrestleMania on Monday Night Raw. Like you're getting Seth Rollins, CM Punk for the first time. You're getting Reigns, Sikoa solo for the first time. You're getting Liv, Rhea, last woman standing. You're gonna get the crowning of the new Intercontinental Women's Champion on that show. Um, I mean, you're getting a lot of stuff on an episode of Monday Night Raw. Yeah, I think Liv and Rhea will have a chance to start 2025 off with a bang, with a great women's wrestling match. But Rhea Ripley, I always thought was one of the better in-ring women's wrestlers going for a while. And they have really morphed her into a larger than life character. But in the ring, since the Becky match, I haven't really enjoyed a Rhea Ripley match in the ring, to be honest. And I am
Or
a big Rhea Ripley fan.
they turned her into from a character spectacle and the way her matches would tend to go. She's going down the Undertaker path.
Mhm.
I mean, and that could be a compliment. That could be not a compliment. The Undertaker has some of the great, Shawn Michaels, obviously. He's got some great matches with Kane, but it's about the spectacle. It's going to be about the power spots, the interference to overcome, because the Undertaker was booked for 20 years where like no one's beating him straight up. So interference just kind of became something he overcame all the time. I mean, it was never one on one. When you wrestled the Undertaker one on one, it was a 7 minute match and you lost in the 90s, and though I do think it's like I wish the last woman standing match meant that it was just going to be the two of them, but I think it's going to be highly high shenanigans.
Yeah. I hope not, because I thought that when Liv beat Io on Saturday night's main event clean with no interference, and then she went over to Rhea, stared her in the face. I was like, okay, now I can get behind this, because what they're telling me is Liv is saying I'm good enough where I don't need anybody. I
No, I
just
love
beat
that.
I just beat who many think is the best women's wrestler in the world, at least the best women's wrestler in that company for sure. I beat her clean straight up with no help. And then I'm going to the big bad Rhea and I'm looking her dead in the eyes. I could take you out. I'd like to see them stick to that script. I think Liv Morgan, even if and I think we can make our predictions next week about that episode, but I'm not putting if I had $1, I'm not putting it on Liv Morgan to come out of that with the belt.
No, no.
Because to me, and I have no problem with that. Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair are their two pillars of the women's movement. And they're probably two of the top 6 just overall stars. The way they promote, the way they push, the
Yeah,
way they put you in front of the camera. Even if Liv loses, I think she'd be better served losing without any help in a classic.
yeah,
Where she gives Rhea everything she can handle for 30 minutes. She comes out with an arm sling, a crutch, and it's like, yeah, I gave it my all. I'm the bad guy, but the honorable thing was to fight her straight up because I had to prove to her I could beat her without help. Like I had to prove I could beat her and I couldn't. That's okay. Like if they're gonna go that direction, fine. But if they're gonna have Liv lose and she gets help, then it goes back to the super mommy booking, which a lot of people don't like. You know, a lot of
super
people
mommy,
don't.
but yeah, Undertale,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. A lot of people don't like it because it's like this whole Raquel thing. Raquel has never gotten any advantage on Rhea ever.
right,
Even throwing her into the corner of a table with her damaged eye, she came back a week later and beat up Raquel with a
yeah.
mask. So,
You know, I agree with you. I don't, it's a Netflix premiere. They can't do the Starcade Saturday Night Main Event thing where they just do a glorified house show with big matches. Like a title has to change hands. I think
mhm.
Rhea's got to win the belt. Does Liv get the Bailey treatment where she holds the belt for most of the year and doesn't have a natural dance partner for WrestleMania? I hate to call that the Bailey
Well,
treatment. I call it the
when you
Bailey
say
treatment.
Bailey, you're talking about Bailey beating Io and then this year not having one.
No, the year that Sasha beat her for the belt after she had it all year, and then she was the gatekeeper for Bianca. She didn't have a match that year,
Oh, she was the host.
right? And
Okay.
and I call it the Bailey treatment because it was bullshit. It wasn't right. And she's talked about it was she struggled with that.
That was
And
dumb.
it's there's no reason she shouldn't have had a match, but
Right.
we have a podcast like this to try to call shit out like that because you know the men's version of Bailey or Liv Morgan in this case, they get on the show. If Gunther was to lose the belt, before the show, he's gonna be on the show. So
Thinking back to that WrestleMania, that's the Bianca Sasha WrestleMania, right? That
yeah,
Bailey
yeah,
didn't have a match on. You know what they should have done with Bailey? She should have been the special guest referee.
yeah.
Because to me, who better to be the referee for those two than that woman?
And you could have had Bianca. It's like, no, I don't trust her. These two are always in
Is
cahoots.
Bailey going to do the right thing? Because
And
by
then she
that
does do the
point,
right thing. Yeah,
yeah, by that time Bailey was already um, you know, going into a feud with Bianca, right? Like Bailey was going to be Bianca's next opponent after cuz Sasha was taking the time off. Um so you could have done it that way where Bailey was a great ref, did everything by the book and then said, "See, now that I didn't screw you over in the match, I want my title match." Like they could have done that way. That one never made any sense to me. But under Vince, they did a lot of stupid things, and um, the way they booked Bailey and Sasha Banks, like I have made this case before, and we'll pivot back to Mercedes here or Sasha. I could make the case that no WrestleMania main eventer has ever been more underutilized than Sasha Banks. Like again, and what I mean is she's main event at WrestleMania, so you can't sit there and say she's got nothing. I mean, yeah, it's a big deal. But of all the people who have ever main evented WrestleMania, other than Mr. T, who's not a wrestler, or Lawrence Taylor, which WrestleMania main eventer has gotten less overall booking than Sasha Banks.
If you say Mania main eventer who was the A side of the feud with the belt, there's nobody. The only one I could think of is like famously Lex Luger was always heated up right to
But he never
almost
main
getting the
evented
belt.
WrestleMania.
Didn't him and Brett main event?
Nope. It was him, Brett, and Yokozuna. Lex Luger, Yokozuna was match 5, WrestleMania 10. The winner of that match fought Brett at the end of the night.
Oh
Yokozuna
yeah,
won because Mr. Perfect returned and costed Luger. Then Bret Hart won the match at the end of
yeah.
the
Then
night
it's definitely Mercedes. It's definitely
because
Mercedes.
95, the main event was Taylor Bigelow. Um,
Terrible.
I mean, I can't even count that because that was dark ages WWE that they needed something to sell some kind of tickets. 96 obviously was Brett Michaels. I mean, those two got a lot. Undertaker, 97 was Undertaker Sid. But Sid has main evented 2 WrestleManias, one against Hogan, one against Taker. I can't really sit there and say he didn't get something because those are 2 pretty big spots.
Right.
98 is Austin. I'm just going through this. I can't really think of one
No, I mean, and
because
obviously
you would argue Bianca has gotten more than Mercedes, right? Or than Sasha, right? Like
yeah. I will say though, the feather in her cap is she's also, besides that LT Bam Bam match, um, they did entrust her huge in that spot because she basically got to main event with a rookie based on how much they trusted her to deliver a great match. And that's nothing against Bianca, um, who they also had to have trust in as well, but she hadn't done it on that stage. And generally speaking, people aren't put in that spot, men or women, without. It'd be like Mello main eventing Mania right now versus um, Gunther. Like it wouldn't be crazy. Sasha would be Gunther and Mello would be Bianca based on the tenure and experience. It wouldn't be like, oh man, they're not, the match would be insane, but it would be unlikely to happen. So it's crazy. It's awesome that those 2 ladies got that and went out there and made it happen. But hey, since we're back on the subject of Mercedes, I really didn't get details from you. What'd you think of the match?
I thought the match was amazing. I didn't know how they could top part 1 so soon, but they actually did because they wrestled a different type of match. It was slower to get into from a crowd standpoint, but they did different spots that they did not do the first time. I mean, she power bombed her on the apron. She gave
Crazy,
her the Owen Hart pile driver on the apron.
crazier.
Um, she did the moneymaker on the concrete, like on the floor. They tied her leg into the ring apron, and Stat took her boot off, Eddie Guerrero style against Kurt Angle. And then Mercedes kept working over the leg that didn't have the boot. If you look closely at the ankle lock and at the STF, she always went after the foot that didn't have the boot on it. And you know, it was like what I loved about that match is, Mercedes was like, I got to kill this person and I got to do everything in my repertoire to get rid of this person. And then I thought when they counted 9 and Mercedes is like, yeah, I'm going to win. And then
Oh, I
he
love
comes
that
right
spot.
back in and she was like, why won't you die? And I thought that was theater. I watched all of these matches last night. I don't, in my opinion, it isn't as good as the Hazuki match. It isn't. But I think a lot of that is because this was the second match, right? Like this was Kris Mercedes 2. It wasn't Kris Mercedes 1. And if it was, I don't know, maybe it's a different conversation. I also think the Hazuki match was just a better wrestled match technically, but this
Yeah.
was more of a fight.
Yeah.
This was more of Mercedes is like, I got to reach deep into my bag to get rid of this person. I got to be a little bit more clever. Um, I thought Stat was great as usual. I love this match. I thought it was better than part one. A lot of people are going to say part one might be better because of the crowd. The crowd was hot from the opening bell to the end of part one, and part two, I thought the crowd got hotter at the end. But there was a 6-7 minute like Rhea Charlotte where not the difference was this match was never bad in spots. It took
Right.
the crowd time. I, I'm gonna say that it's getting to the point now where if Mercedes doesn't have one of these matches, that's going to be more of the shock to me than having these type of matches. Like I'm going in now with the expectation because of the role she's been on that this is what I'm going to get. And if I don't get it, I'm going to be disappointed and maybe I shouldn't be that way because he's not a robot. Like there is an off night chance, right? Like and again,
Well, and her dance partner too.
this is why the Brit match and the Sheeta match are perplexing. Because no, look, I don't think Sheeta or Britt are as good as Kris or Hazuki. I don't. I don't even think they're in the same ballpark. But they're capable enough where with the talent that Mercedes is, I was expecting better. And as a character, she plays the character very well. And for whatever reason, the styles maybe it's a styles clash. I don't know. But again, going back to ratings, I don't like I is it a 4.75? Like I kind of feel like it is watching this last night, and I would have given Hazuki Mercedes a 5, but I think this is a 4.75 match. And I think part one might be, 4.73 or 4.74, where they're all so good. Like I said, the shock here, when I saw her Momo and I saw it live in front of my eyes, like what 4 rows back or something like that. 6, I think. I didn't think Mercedes would have better match the whole year than that match. He's had 3 better than that match.
Since,
Like
yeah.
that's what has been so crazy to me about this run she's been on because she's had 3 different matches. Mercedes Kris 1, Mercedes Kris 2, Mercedes Hazuki are all different. They tell different
Yeah.
stories, they have different move sets, they have different pacing. 3 different cities, Orlando, New York, New Jersey, California. And she has delivered to a degree that even though I think she is the second best women's wrestler of all time, I'm even amazed at how great is doing this. And I can if you want to start to make the case that she's the best ever, I'm willing to listen. And here's why. Because she has to do it in 2 different settings. She has to do the North American kind of style. And I understand Tony gives her more leeway and she can work a Joshi style in AEW. And then she's doing it in a Japanese company, which is New Japan, right? So
Yeah.
she has never had restriction like in the All Japan women's days, it was basically a women's wrestling company.
Mm-hmm.
And the pay-per-views were women's wrestling pay-per-views or big events in the Tokyo Dome. So it's like they got time, they got stories, they got calendars, they got a lot of different things that they had advantages of. Now they were ahead of the curve by decades, but they also didn't have restrictions like, well, you're going to be squeezed in between a Will Ospreay Okada match and this, like you don't have those restrictions. So
Right.
I don't know. Like I'm starting to listen to the conversation. I'm not there yet, but I think she's by far the best North American women's wrestler ever, and she's definitely going to be, she's in the Mount Rushmore of all time women's wrestlers. Like, there's no denying her at this point. My opinion on the match was, I don't. I'm just shocked that she could outdo part one. Like, and going into this, I had a couple of different analogies. I'm gonna get to mine here right now. Going in, I was like, Godfather 1, Godfather 2. But I don't want to give Mercedes Kris, as great as the two matches were, the credit for Godfather 1 and 2 because, and everybody who knows me knows this. I have Godfather 2 as the best movie ever. I have Godfather 1 as the second or third best movie ever. Goodfellas is the other. So it's like I hold those two movies in such high reverence that maybe that's Sasha Bailey. Like maybe
Right.
that's the analogy. The other analogy I have, and I'm not going to say it because I'm going to save it for Hazuki Mercedes 2, because I truly believe these two set of albums are going to be Mercedes Hazuki 1 and 2. So I'm not even going to use that. I'm going to go a different path with albums. So Mercedes Kris 1 to me, I'm going to take everybody back to 1996 here. Okay, so this is Iron Man from Ghostface. And at the time when this album came out, Ghostface was the last of the Wu members to get a solo album other than I think it was Inspector Deck was the other one. And the reason I'm using this analogy is I feel like a lot of people think Mercedes is the best four horsewomen, like she's the best of the four. But I feel like until she got to this AEW run, she never got the platform to show she was the best, if that makes any sense. Like
Inconsistently got the platform for
consistently,
sure.
like she never, like in the group setting, if you listen to a Wu-Tang song, a lot of people are like, I think Ghost is the best. But you never got to know that because he just didn't have the solo stuff. He was always in the group stuff. He did the stuff with Raekwon. And so when he came out with Iron Man, people were like, well, okay, this is what I'm expecting out of Ghostface. And when I saw Mercedes Kris 1, that's kind of what I expect out of Mercedes away from the WWE lights, umbrella, away from, her comfort of Bailey, of Becky, of Charlotte. And I know she's had the Japan run before she got injured. She had the matches with Mayu and Kyrie and them. But like I thought the Mercedes Kris match for the first time was Mercedes is an entity away from WWE that is proven now. And it's like, yeah, she's it. So, going into Mercedes Kris 2, I didn't know if they could top it because that was a hell of a match, right? It was a hell of a match and it was hard to top it. So, 4 years later, Ghostface put out this album, which is Supreme Clientele. And by many people, this is Ghostface's best album. And when I watched Mercedes Kris 2 last night, this popped in my head because now Mercedes is proving that she is the best of the four horsewomen. And Ghostface ended up having the best solo catalog of the Wu-Tang. So it's like what you thought could have been ended up becoming. And now I feel like Mercedes is becoming that, where you take her resume away from WWE, you take her resume away from the four horsewomen. And I think right now, her resume without any WWE, this is a strong statement. If you take Charlotte, Becky, and Bailey, and you take Sasha Banks out of their resumes, okay? So Bailey doesn't have Sasha Banks. Becky doesn't have Sasha Banks. Charlotte doesn't have Sasha Banks. And then you take the Mercedes resume after WWE. So Kyrie to present day. Her
Oh, yep.
resume is better away from WWE than Charlotte, Becky, or Bailey's resume in WWE without Sasha Banks. So I want everybody, I know that's a lot to process, but that's kind of how I feel. And that's why I use these albums because Ghostface went on to become a star away from the Woo. Like he
Yep.
was always affiliated with the Woo. Sasha will always be affiliated with the Four Horsewomen. But Ghostface ended up becoming a person who did songs with Amy Winehouse, who did songs with Ariana Grande, who had very famously a cameo in the first Iron Man that got cut, and the director gave it to him because he kept the name Iron Man alive when nobody talked about Iron Man as a comic book character, and he kept it alive in his music. And so that's kind of how I feel about Mercedes now, that she has now distanced herself from being just affiliated with the Four Horsewomen or even WWE, and she is an entity onto herself. And she doesn't. I hate to say this because I want to see her go back to WWE one day. I don't think she ever needs to go back. So that's kind of my analogy this week.
At this point, if she goes back, it won't be because she needs to. It'll be just to fulfill some fun nostalgia. It won't be a need. I think she's already proven that. Um, no, it's funny. A couple people have tweeted, guys, I have to admit, Sasha Banks is not the greatest wrestler of all time. Mercedes Moné is, and that's kind of the point you're saying is she's putting together a run of matches that is just unequaled in present day. So my bold statement is this: I'm going to stop saying that, I think she's the greatest women's wrestler of all time. I think that is, we're very close to that being settled, at least in the modern era. Let's go 2000
Mm-hmm.
forward, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's almost settled. I mean, there's just not a strong argument against it. Um, Mount Rushmore of all wrestlers over the last 25 years. And I think she's on there. Um, obviously you're going to have your, and it depends on what you like. If you want as a character, Roman's on it, but if you're talking match quality, Roman's not on it. And it's, Kenny Omega, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. But I think you have to include one woman to tell the story of where wrestling's grown the last 25 years. You have to, and it has to be her. She
She is she's the most impactful women's wrestler of this century for sure. She has to be on there because women's wrestling this century has become what it has become. It went from being a nice, thing that I would catch Saturdays at, I can't remember the name of the hall in Illinois, which is Shimmer, right? Like it became
Yeah,
like Shimmer was a cool thing, like it was a cool indie thing. But women's wrestling is a thriving, $100 million, multi-million dollar a year industry. And some of the biggest stars in this genre are women, whether it's Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, Charlotte Bailey, Liv, Bianca,
Bianca.
whoever you want to say, Io. I don't think any of this happens without Sasha Bailey Brooklyn. I I understand there's the inside baseball reference of Sasha Charlotte in San Jose NXT because Vince was sitting in that match and saw it and said, okay, this is my WrestleMania main event the next year, which he never felt followed through with anyway. But the point is, I think Sasha Bailey Brooklyn took women's wrestling in this continent to a level that wouldn't have got there without that match. And she is a bigger part of the story, and here's why. Because she went into that as this unbeatable person that year. Beat Becky, beat Charlotte, beat Alexa, beat Charlotte multiple times. Came onto the main roster with the belt, beat the champion of the main roster in Nikki Bella. Like we forget a week before SummerSlam, he beat Nikki Bella clean in the middle of the ring.
Yep.
Right? So she was this unbeatable force that year, and Bailey beat her. And Bailey was absolutely cemented on the map, but she also made Becky Lynch a star that year as well. And a lot of people thought she made Charlotte a star in San Jose. So she made the other three women stars. He has to be the person who's seen as the most important. That's just a simple logic. But let's just take 2015 to 2025, right? We're coming to the end of this year, so we're going to be in 2025 in a week. He is the linchpin of what women's wrestling has become in North America. And
Yep.
And she's a big reason, if not, she's one of the biggest reasons why Io, Asuka, Kyrie are all in America.
Yep.
You think
Stephanie Vaquer,
Stephanie Vaquer, of
Julia.
course, Julia. You think any of these women leave cush gigs where they're making good money to come to a developmental place if they didn't see what Sasha Bailey did? Go back and watch Io Sky or Io Shirai at the time's first interview. Who are your dream opponents? I want to fight Sasha. I want to fight Charlotte. I want to fight Asuka. Like, that's who she said. She said Sasha first. And nobody in WWE told her to say Sasha first. Nobody's like, lit, not Sasha. So that was Io speaking from the heart. Like, I want to have a match with this woman. And I think she is the best women's wrestler of this century. So 2000 to present day. I think she's the most important. And look, comparing her and Toyota is always going to be tough because of eras. Look what Toyota was doing in 95, men weren't doing. So she's ahead in different lanes. But I would make the argument, if you're going to make the argument for Mercedes, the argument is it's much harder to do under Vince McMahon's umbrella than it was in All Japan in the 90s, right? Like,
Absolutely.
Vince is such a bad booker. And he really is. I mean, he really lost his marbles at some point this century. And for her to be as good as she is, given how many 6-minute and 3-minute matches she's had, that's a testament to her. Manami Toyota never had a 3-minute match in her life. She doesn't even know what that is. Like, you go to Manami Toyota in 1995 and say, hey, we're gonna have a 3-minute match. She'd walk out. She'd be like, I'm done. I don't need to be here.
We try not to talk about him too much on this, but I've just got to say something about Vince. Over the last 15 years, talent thrived more in spite of him than because of him. And actually, the two biggest pieces of proof of that are Sasha Banks booked her like shit for 2 years. She still, through her own talent, was over enough to be able to, come back with the blue hair, new attitude, and that led to a year and a half later a Mania main event. And then the bigger example is on the men's wrestling side that we don't talk about. He actually held Roman Reigns back by everything he did for all those years, because you look at where Roman's looked at now, stature wise, and Vince didn't get him there. Vince picked the right groceries. He just cooked them poorly, right?
Mm-hmm.
He picked the right guy.
Mm-hmm.
He just fucked up the meal.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he picked the right guy, but he picked, like, if it weren't for Paul Heyman, we don't have this Roman Reigns, right? Like, we don't. He's lucky Paul Heyman is in his kind of circle, because, I mean, Roman Reigns had everything you could want out of a professional wrestler. He had the look, he had the charisma, he could talk, and then even all of those things were questioned under Vince. Suffering succotash. Why aren't you turning this guy heel, Vince? People boo him. They're going to boo him so much that they're going to end up cheering him. Well, that's exactly what happened with Roman Reigns, right? Like, that's exactly what happened, where they made him such a dastardly heel that when he went away for a while, people ended up liking him because he was cool and he won all the time. And then when he came back, he got one of the loudest pops of all time, right? Like, when he came back at SummerSlam to help Cody, people lost their mind. I wanted to be in the building for that, just to hear what the crowd would be like, because every week it was Roman, and it was like it was building. Vince, look, it is a miracle that WWE didn't go out of business on Vince's watch. It is and I know people are laughing. People are going to watch this back and be like, is this guy losing it? No. Vince was so bad. Like, I don't think people understand. I know we shouldn't spend more time on this than we need to, but I don't think people realize how bad he was for not only the women's wrestling, but for men's wrestling. Like, do we remember that John Cena and Orton main evented like 10 pay-per-views in a row and had like the most boring series of matches? Like, if Punk doesn't cut pipe bomb, what happens that summer? Like, what are we getting that summer? Like, are we getting Rey Mysterio, John? Like, they were just booking all over the place. Like they didn't know what they were doing.
Well, and he's obviously a terrible human being beyond being a
Mhm.
booker, and the allegations against him and all that it just makes you feel sick, and that's why we don't talk about him very much. But we've said on this before, the pandemic actually saved WWE.
Yeah.
Um, the ratings, and when they mattered more than they do now, the ratings were spinning down the drain. Their live gates were terrible,
They were
terrible.
losing money on house shows. Yeah.
They were losing money on house shows. Their pay-per-view gates were not good, and people not being able to go to the shows. Plus, there being less TV because actors and all that couldn't. He actors couldn't go out and do shows, or that was stopped for a while. So they were the only game in town for a minute, and I really Sasha Bailey kind of rejuvenated a lot of
Hmm.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were the ones willing to go out there and do the work. But yeah, he
I,
got
I
he
yeah, I
got
thought.
lucky more than he was good the last 20 years.
I mean, Stephanie McMahon famously, the morning, I guess, of WrestleMania, which is Bianca Sasha, where she pretty much spoiled that they were going to main event, and I don't think it was a bad spoil. I was glad she did it actually because it gave me pause, like, oh, okay, this is going to happen. Because I was like, oh God, don't tell me they're going to put Drew and Lashley on when they have a chance to really let these two women go out there and do their thing. But she said in that interview with Bill Simmons, she goes, many people thought Sasha or Bailey and Sasha carried us, during the pandemic. And then I remember Bill Simmons famously says, you know, this is the Sasha Banks we kind of always expected, where she's finally becoming a star. And Stephanie corrected him and said, no, she's always been a star to me. And the reason she had to say me is because I'm pretty, and I know this almost for a fact, I'm not going to reveal my source here, but I know for a fact her and Triple H lobbied behind the scenes for Sasha to win that 32 match and to have a bigger presence. Like they've always been fans of her. And if you go back and remember some of the 2017 nonsense they did with Sasha, she and Stephanie used to get in each other's face a lot, where I almost was convinced that they were going to have like a
I wanted
feud.
that so bad.
And I thought that that's what maybe that was Stephanie's way of saying, okay, Vince, watch this. Like, I'm going to have a program with her and I'm going to prove to you that she is the one you need to be attaching a rocket to. And Stephanie's always been a huge, fan of Mercedes and Sasha Banks, and everybody who knows in the industry knows that. And, you know, I'm happy for Mercedes that she's getting to put on the matches that she has always wanted to put on. Because if you know her history, she is inspired by the Manami Toyotas and the Bull Nakanos and the Aja Kongs and the Hokutos. And I know she always talks about like Trish is one of her heroes too, but like, let's be honest. The matches that Trish Stratus was putting on is not what inspired Mercedes. Because if you watch how Mercedes wrestles, there's very little Trish Stratus in her actual
Right.
wrestling. Character wise, sure, Trish is as good a presence on WWE TV for women ever. I mean, she is. She's that good. And she's a hell of a promo. And I remember one of my favorite women's characters of all time was heel Trish. That she was unbelievable as a heel champion. But from a wrestling standpoint, we got to be honest here. Her inspiration is the All Japan women. And she's getting to have those kind of matches now, which, as we started this pod, she couldn't have in WWE. They're just not going to give it to her. So kudos to her. Kudos to Kris, who's a complete superstar. And I don't know where you want to rank people. We're going to save that for next week. But like, I feel like Kris has a legitimate case as top 5 women wrestler in the world. Legitimate case.
She really
Um,
does.
she does, and she should be given her flowers because she has 3. I don't know what my top 10 is going to look like in order, but I can tell you Kris has 3 of those top 10 matches. I can just tell
Yep.
you right now, Kris is going to have 3 of 10, and
Yeah.
that says it all.
Yep. Kris has 3 of 10. Mercedes has 4 of 10. There's just, to me, it's so funny, man, because like that Willow match is really, really good, and it is like it's not even in the back seat anymore. It's in the trunk, as we talk about this year. Like
Not,
it's
yeah, you shouldn't reveal yours. I'm not going to reveal mine, but I got to tell you this. If one of the big four Mercedes matches doesn't make my list, it is going to be the Willow match.
right.
It's come to that now where
It's
if
the fourth best match of hers
yes,
for sure.
and one of the things that hurts the Willow match is the outcome was never in doubt.
Right.
No matter what anybody wants to say, and I know this is a lot of the Sasha Banks booking PTSD, she wasn't going to lose her first match in AEW. No
Yep.
way. So that takes a little out of it for me, but it was still a hell of a match. So we've spent a lot of time, rightfully so, on Mercedes Kris 2. It deserved it. Um, let's go to the other match on the card if you got a chance to watch it, and then we can go to WWE. What did you think quickly of the Tijuana Street Fight, Mariah May, Thunder Rosa?
I would say kudos to Mariah and Thunder Rosa for going out there and they tried everything I think that they could. Kudos to AEW for giving them the platform. I'm not a stip guy. I think you guys know that if you've
Mm-hmm.
listened. I like last woman standing gets added to the Rhea Liv match, and I don't get more excited except for the fact that I know they're going to get more time. That part makes me excited, but I'm not a big stip guy. I just love a well wrestled match. But not my cup of tea, and I don't think it connected in the way that they wanted it to. Um, so, you know, good effort. Not certainly not anything bad, but it didn't do it for me. Mariah, I feel like is in waiting, right? And it's a tough place to be as a champion, waiting for the feud everyone knows is the feud that you're heading towards. So yeah, I mean, if I scored it, 3.5, something like that, maybe probably a three, actually a three, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I didn't think I wouldn't give it a three. I didn't think it was that good. Here's the thing: there's a
I watch it with no
difference.
sound.
Okay, fair. There's a difference between working hard and actually being a good match.
Right.
Both women worked hard. They put their body through thumbtacks, uh, dirt, dirt from the cemetery, Thunder Rosa's father's cane. They did spots. I mean, a storm zero through the table is a crazy spot.
Yeah.
That's a crazy spot, and the table was not giving much. It was a crazy dangerous spot. So they worked hard. They deserve credit for that. I still didn't love. I didn't get into the match. One because okay, so you don't like stipulations, and I understand why. Because you didn't fall into love. Nobody. I don't think I can say this about me. I didn't fall in love with wrestling because the first ever match I saw wasn't a stip match, right? So like most of the wrestling I grew up on didn't have stips. Stips were used rarely. Like there's the
Yeah.
famous 19 I'm gonna get my year right here, 1988 scaffold match, or it was called the skyscraper match, which is the rock the Midnight Express against the Road Warriors, where famously they threw Jim Cornette off of it and he tore both of his ACLs or something like that. Like he blew up both of his knees. I didn't understand why this match needed a stip. Like, what is the Thunder Rosa Mariah May beef to where it needs to be a Tijuana street fight? And why was it called a Tijuana street fight? Is it because one of the combatants is Hispanic? This whole thing was hokey to me. I didn't get the feud. I didn't get this match. Okay, so Thunder Rosa's dad brings dirt from a cemetery. That dirt ends up costing his daughter the match. Like some of the stuff was just bad. It was just a bad produced match for a feud that was clearly a filler feud for Mariah May because they have bigger plans for her and they're trying to build wins for her. But I mean, look, there's a reason this match went on third in kind of the death spot. Like they put this match in between Ricochet, Okada, Adam Cole, MJF. Tells you what you needed to know about what they thought of this match. And when they saw the layout, they're like, ugh. And I don't know, I just didn't like it. Like, and I like both women. I think Mariah May is super talented. Like, she's a total package. Like, she looks
She's one of
great.
the four you'd build around, in my opinion.
Yeah. She can cut a promo. She can wrestle. She looks tremendous. I mean, she has everything. She checks every box, as they say. But I just didn't love this match. And what I hope they do with Mariah May is they start to give her real feuds again. Because like she had one of the all-time feuds with Tony, and then she went from that to just having random matches.
Well, and they build some, you asked about the Tijuana Street Fight, and you know, they built so much of this feud like they did with Chris Mercedes, to be honest. Not just promos, but backstage vignettes. Some of them on Dynamite, some of them on Collision. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's 30 seconds to a minute, and you might not catch it actually if you're fast forwarding to catch up on your DVR, as a lot of us who can't watch everything live have to do, and you might miss it. So they owe her a little bit, something a little bit more meaty, where whatever story they tell is done um, with a better foot forward than kind of some of this stuff. Um, WWE. So we touched on Liv and Rhea. I'm very excited for that match. I really hope both women crush it. I think it'd be huge for the women, for the locker room, for that match to be the best match of the night. Even like CM Punk and Seth. I think, you know, Rhea and Liv got to go out there and go, we've got to beat that match. We've got to top that match. And I think they can do it. But actually, it needs less noise and more fighting. More, more, not only do they hate each other, but they used to love each other. That's what it needs.
Yeah. I don't know how they're gonna top Punk Rollins. I'm sorry.
Well,
Like, I mean, I'm just like, and I love Rhea Ripley and I love Liv Morgan, and I think they have the capabilities to have a great last woman standing match. And give them 25 minutes, they beat the crap out of each other, they have cool spots, they do cool things. I think they can do all of it. I just don't see how they can stop Punk Rollins. I'm sorry.
they got
I
to
just
try,
I
though. They got
they
to
got to
try.
try. They got to try. And then they could do it. I mean, it has happened. I mean, many people didn't think that Sasha Bailey, two women in developmental, could beat Owens Balor ladder match. Like, there nobody thought, like, a lot of people thought Sasha Bailey was going to be good. Nobody thought it would be that. Where to the
Was
point
that
where
match
Owens
even on
and
that card? I'm
what?
just kidding.
Yeah, no, seriously.
That's a
There are
joke.
no. It's a good joke because I have friends who went to that event live, saw Sasha Bailey, and went into the lobby and had coffee and missed Balor Owens because they were talking about how great Sasha Bailey was. They missed Balor Owens.
Yeah,
Like, they heard it from the concourse. They're like, oh, okay. They didn't care. They got to the point where, like, who cares? Okay, Balor retained. Who cares? But
right.
nobody thought going in that they would have a better match than Finn Balor and Kevin Owens. Nobody thought Sasha Banks Bailey that weekend would have the best match of the weekend, including beating Rollins Cena, which was an all-time Seth Rollins masterpiece against Cena, where he had the white suit on. Rollins did that weekend.
Yeah,
I don't know how these two can top Punk Rollins. I'm being honest. This is a match that people have wanted for years,
yeah,
and they hate each other. They have a legitimate hatred of each other. And as Seth has said, we can do business together, and Punk has said we can do business together, but they don't like each other.
yeah.
And so to
It
me,
makes
it's going
it
to be
makes
tough.
it makes for some of the best matches. Sometimes that makes for the worst matches, though, when they actually hate each other. But no, I think it'll deliver. Um, Chelsea got an in ring promo, kind of what you asked for last week,
Yeah.
and did the whole Statue of Liberty deal, which I thought was fun. She's just such a great on screen character. Um, really good first person for that belt. I do wonder. So they had Meechin come out and interrupt her. I do wonder if it'd be cool to establish with that belt at least for a little while. I know sometimes with a new belt they want it like established, and I
Mhm.
actually think it'd be cool. Don't hot potato it like that old green title they used to have, that R-Truth used to win 50 times a show. But like, I don't. I think WWE has their title holders hold the belt almost too long consistently. So I think it'd be cool for that one to have some movement to it. I'm not asking for Chelsea to lose next week. I'm just saying, usually if you beat someone for the belt and they're your first feud, you're going to beat them again. But maybe they feud for another month or two and Meach and beats her. I don't know, but both of them are doing great work on TV.
Did you catch how she is starting to put down Piper?
Yeah, yep. So
So does it feel like if Michin does win the belt, it's going to be because Piper turns on her?
yes, or
Okay.
Meechin doesn't win the belt and Piper's the one that takes it. That's the
Yeah,
two lanes I
yeah.
could see.
So
Yeah,
they have a story here, and I'm glad to see Michin is not forgotten and she's still, and I think that maybe not next week, but the week after, I could see the rematch happening um, between those two. But I'm happy, for all three women. They're all talented. They all deserve, their spot. And so, we've pivoted to WWE. So let's talk about, the six women match on SmackDown, which everybody seemed to love, which was you have the women's tag champs of Bianca and now Naomi, along with Naomi's bestie in Bailey and Bianca's not bestie in Bailey. And they're facing, the trio of the women's world champion, which is Nia Jax, women's Money in the Bank winner in Tiffany, Miss Money in the Bank, and the women's speed champion in Candice. And it's the six-person match. And before the match started, Nia put it out there. Nia said, instead of you always saying I'm the one who took out Jade or we did, what about you? You were jealous of Jade. She's bigger than you. She's stronger than you. She's better than you. Um, I agree maybe with the first two. I certainly don't agree with the last thing. I thought that was awesome. As the kids say, cap by Naya. That was funny. To put it out there. And then I noticed when they bring up Jade's name, Naomi's face always changes, her expression. So I think Naomi is the guilty party here. I've always thought
I
Naomi
do
was the
too.
guilty party. And I thought Naya, doing that was great. I thought Naya was classic heel. But the other development in this match is Tiffany finally admitted, I want to be champ. She was going to cash in on Naya. Candice took the briefcase from her and she says, I want to be champ. Next week, we have Naomi going after the women's title against Nia Jax in what I was told was the main event of SmackDown, first 3 hour SmackDown. Does Tiffany cash next week?
I I think they're going to tease it the whole show for sure, right? You said this earlier. I think before we jumped on this. If it's the first 3 hour SmackDown, they have to spend the first hour or in two say, hey, this thing don't end at 9 or whatever, like it
Mm-hmm.
usually does. And not only do they say, hey, it's a 3 hour show, but you really gotta convince someone why they should, stay for the extra hour the first time and develop that habit. So with all of the bullets they are spending on the Netflix premiere, their only bullet in the chamber to splash that third hour is the Tiffany cash in. Now, they could pull the chair out from under us and uh, tease it but not do it. And they got to be careful on that. Not with cash ins. Cash ins are always fun, but um, you know, they're in a hot spot right now. I mean, almost everything they do works. I think that someone kind of talked down to me on Twitter and they're like, Saturday Night Main Event's always been a glorified house show. What did you expect? What was the real life in the 80s is not the real life now. And if you get people to spend their Saturday night watching a show they never watch, make it worth their while, is all I was saying. So you can only cry wolf so many times. And, you know, they got a lot of programming. Wrestling has a lot of programming that we watch, and not a lot happens until the pay-per-view. And I really think something's got to happen. We know something's happening on the Netflix show. It has to. I think the SmackDown 3 hours, something real needs to happen as well.
Yeah. So the person who responded to you on Twitter that it's always been a glorified house show, I don't know how old this person is. I venture to say that they weren't really watching 1980s Saturday Night's main events as they happened, because that is absolutely not true. Hogan lost the belt. The longest reigning champ, 4 years, lost the belt to Andre on the main event, which was the most watched wrestling program in the history of the United States at 33.4 million people.
Yep.
Hogan and Macho exploded on, they became the mega powers on Saturday night's main event. You know, people forget that. They became the mega powers, were famously Honky Tonk Man and the Hart Foundation were beating Macho Man up. They hit him over the head with the guitar. They pushed this was unprecedented. Honky Tonk Man pushed Elizabeth, pushed her on TV in the 80s. This was horrific. My mom, my dad, we were all watching this. My mom was horrified. My dad wanted the Honky Tonk Man to be just like crucified. He runs away and brings Hogan out. This happened on Saturday Night's Main Event. This did not happen on Superstars or Wrestling Challenge.
Right.
Hogan and Macho Man broke up famously on the main event the next year, where, you know, he says, "You got lust in your eyes" for Elizabeth. And Macho Man famously took the belt and actually hit him for real hard way and concussed Hogan. He concussed Hogan because he hit him so hard with the belt, and then he broke him in, he busted him hard way. And this happened on Saturday Night's Main Event. So for people to say it was a glorified house show, no, it was not. The Brainbusters beat Demolition for the tag belts on Saturday Night's Main
Right.
Event. A lot of stuff happened, but it wasn't just belt changes. It was storyline developments happened.
And I think they had it right if they would have just aired what KO did to Cody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that didn't air, because that would have fit the theme of things explode on Saturday Night Main Event. Your belt
Yeah.
doesn't have to change hands.
So whoever says that, no, they're wrong. And look, I am so happy for Liv Morgan that she has gotten the run with the belt, because the first time with the Rousey thing was stupid. Like, they just screwed that whole thing up. So I'm happy for her. She deserves it. She's a star. She walks red carpets. She's popular. People love her. Even though she's a nasty heel, they come to pay their money to see her. But it's time for her to give up the belt to Rhea. Or if she's going to beat Rhea, they got to move on from each other. I don't want to see this feud anymore. It's past its expiration date. The same thing with Tiffany. Tiffany is really hot right now. She's very popular. The crowd loves her. You got to pull the trigger, and then you got to mint her as a new babyface star. Because there's always going to be money in a there's always going to be money in a very attractive blonde woman who also can absolutely work in the ring in Tiffany. And she's young and she's athletic and she has every tool in the tool belt. So you gotta capitalize on her. You gotta strike when the iron's hot. Let her cash in soon. I would do it on next week's SmackDown. I would let her have the rematch feud, the rematch with Nia. You know, Nia's like, "Hey, you didn't beat me one-on-one. You needed this. Let's do that at the Rumble." But I don't know what you do with Tiffany at WrestleMania. That's where I don't know.
And I'm excited to see what layer of the Naomi Bianca story happens here. I will say, I've been a little bit lukewarm. Nia's kind of just had the belt. Nia and Mariah, it's kind of the same thing. They kind of have the belt waiting for the thing you know is going to happen. And I bring up Mariah just to say, if we sound critical of one company and you think we criticize the company you like more, trying to give, you know, the things we call out, it's about trying to make them better, right? You know, if Nia was going to hold the belt this long, they could have done a couple more things with her, waiting on this Tiffany thing, just like what we said about Mariah earlier. But lukewarm on lately there. The Rhea Liv thing, I've been very outspoken on how I felt about that feud. I think they could save it with a great blow off match and just be done with it, to your point. However, the work they've put into caring about, 20, 25 deep, um, the Royal Rumble could be one of the better ones. I don't know who's going to win, which is usually very obvious at this
That,
point who's going to win.
yeah, that's actually the best part of this for year's Royal Rumble, along with the talent that WWE has stockpiled. But this is going to be a year where, like I said, if Stephanie Vaquer won the Royal Rumble, I wouldn't be shocked. Like
Right.
people would be like, "Oh my god!" I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." Like that's what's good about how WWE has booked. They've booked so many women in such prominent roles, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, that like everybody's gonna have odds of Naomi winning. Like I think that she's still the odds-on favorite to win. Where's her
I'd love that.
story? No, I'm not saying I wouldn't love her winning the Royal Rumble, but where's her story? Because to me, her versus Bianca looks like the WrestleMania match.
Right.
Like, unless they're going to go Naomi versus Jade, but to me, I want to see Naomi Bianca at WrestleMania because, and again, I know Jade has worked really, really hard and she's gotten better, but I feel like Naomi did some amazing work in TNA. And since she's come back to WWE, she's had a chance to showcase some of it. And she's had a really good match with Nia. She had the triple threat with Bayley, Tiffany. She's had some good stuff with Tiffany. Um, but I want to see a Naomi Bianca match at WrestleMania. No
I
title.
think I think Bianca and Naomi absolutely with, 12 to 16 minutes could do a 4-star match. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. I
and
think so
a
easily.
4-star match like the way we would grade it, the way women's wrestling
Yeah,
fans would grade it.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to think if Naomi does win the Rumble, then Bianca almost has to be champ, right? Like you'd almost have to do it that way.
and I don't see how you
Um,
get the belt to her anytime soon.
I mean, I
It's going
want
to be
Tiffany.
Rhea and
Look,
Tiffany.
yeah, I like Tiffany to have the belt for. Look, eventually we've had this. We talked about this on the podcast like 12 times. Like they got to figure out a way to get to Bianca Rhea right. Like they got to just do it. Like at this point, I need to see that match at WrestleMania. I think it's the only match that has a legitimate chance in WWE of main eventing WrestleMania anymore. I don't think it's Becky. I don't think it's Charlotte. I don't think it's Io. I think it's only Bianca and Rhea. And clearly, Triple H is saying, you know what, Four Horsewomen, thank you for your time. We'll take it from here. He has now. I know he's not going to be able to do that with Charlotte. She's going to return. He's not going to be able to do that with Becky. She's going to return. Um, I could make a case that you can do Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch versus CM Punk and AJ Lee at WrestleMania.
Oh
I can make a
God,
case
if
that
that
you can make
I
a case for that.
I love AJ as a character. And I think she could wrestle. Um, and I think a little bit like Trish, it'd be cool to see her get out there and have a couple very well wrestled matches to kind of just, as much as we talk about Mercedes, and Bailey kind of revolutionizing the way women get to wrestle. I never want anyone to think that we don't think that those women could have gone and been really good in the ring before. It just wasn't part of what they were expected to do, nor asked to do, nor wanted to do. Like they wanted to do it, the company didn't want them to do it.
I have my WrestleMania card right now. It just hit me in my head, so I'm going to give you my matches.
Okay.
Charlotte Tiffany for the title.
Yep.
Okay. Rhea Io for the title.
Yep.
Bianca Naomi blood feud
Okay.
by the time we get there. AJ Punk Becky Seth.
Yep.
And you have the two mid card belts, right? And I think Io going into the match with Rhea should be champion versus champion. It should be Io going after the world title or Rhea going after the IC title. Like they should go title for title. I know people probably won't like that, but hey, it's my card. Um, Chelsea by the time we get to WrestleMania, Bailey versus whoever the United States Women's Champion is.
Okay.
And then the tag belts, whoever has them at that point, it should be a Chelsea Piper team. Hmm?
I'm counting how many women's matches you have on the card. We
Well,
should
it's
give
a
you the
it's
10.
two
I
day
love it.
it's a
I
it's a
know.
2 day show, right? It's a 2 day show, and
Would they have four last year? Three or four?
okay, let's do this off the top of my head. Bianca, Naomi, Jade versus Damage. Was it Damage Control?
Yeah,
No, no, no. Yeah, it was.
yeah.
It was
Io,
Dakota,
Dakota.
Dakota, Kyrie, and Asuka.
Yeah,
Io Bailey,
right.
Becky Rhea.
Yeah.
Is that it?
What were the women's tag belts? They were all Jade and Bianca had them, right? Or did they have them yet? No, they didn't have
No,
them yet.
I thought Asuka and I I don't know who had to take. That's sad.
So that might have been three. That might have been the three matches though.
Okay.
Um, no, I love it. I do. I've not heard anyone throw out that AJ Becky idea, and it gets Becky on the card without putting her in a title feud right away. So I think that
Yeah.
could be fantastic.
Well, and I think that's bigger for I think her wrestling with her now husband. I mean, I know Becky and Seth did the mixed tag with Baron Corbin, who's no longer with the company, and Lacey Evans, who's also no longer with the company,
Right.
in Philadelphia where Lesnar cashed. But like, look, AJ Lee has been like a white whale for the women's wrestling company for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
people have wanted to see her return. People want to hear the music. People want to hear the pop. And look, I think Becky and Seth against, and again, Becky's hatred for AJ could be simply put, I'm tired of hearing about how you were this great wrestler when, it's me and my women who carried the company and took us to the next level. Like, you could do it so many
Two
different ways.
and it's for I would actually agree. Might be the two of the best women ever on the mic.
Yes, that's the other part of this that I'm excited about is AJ and Becky on the microphone against each other. Seth, I know there's the CM Punk Roman Reigns main event rumor right now, which is if Rock cannot wrestle, it will be Cody, Cena, Reigns, Punk. Okay, now look, um, that would not be my last match for Cena, or whatever last WrestleMania match for Cena. I don't even know how I would book Cena. I think Gunther should fight Goldberg, and I would like to see Cena Gunther more than anything else. Like, I'm not really that interested in Gunther Goldberg, although I thought Gunther had, in my opinion, promo of the year, where he said, "I hope for your sake, Goldberg is a better father than he was a wrestler." Like, I thought that's promo of the year to me. But I don't I don't I'm not as interested in Punk Reigns as everybody else is. That's
Yeah.
like a wrestling, podcast match, which is where Punk went on a podcast 10 years ago with a guy he's no longer friends with, and basically put it out there that, Vince Roman was the chosen one, and it got Roman a lot of his heat with the crowd for 2 years, right? 2, 3 years. People
Yeah.
didn't like Roman because of that. And then are they just going to rehash that? Because to me at this point, and nothing against Punk, I don't see Punk I don't see Punk and Reigns anymore as a dream match to me.
Yeah,
I,
I actually always wanted the Rollins Punk match more just because I knew in the ring. Yeah, it's actually nothing against Roman. I think I actually like
yeah,
Roman in the ring better than I like Seth for my style, and I'm talking old Roman, not the way he wrestles
yeah.
now. Um, But Punk and Rollins, I could just see that the style matchup's going to be so good. It just feels like it's going to
Yeah.
be so good. Roman, for me to get excited about a match with Punk, I'd like to see his work rate go back up. Um, at the danger of continuing to talk about men's wrestling, dude, I have a big dog shirt. You know that.
Yeah.
Like, I
Hmm.
liked Roman because I liked what he did in the ring. When he was against the Finn Balor's of the world, the work rate and the matches were incredible. And
He was, yeah.
if he's going to be a tweener or a face again, um, at some point he's got to start wrestling like he used to a little bit, right? Like, give me a sit out power bomb. You know what I'm saying? Like the one arm sit out power bombs used to be big. I don't know. I'd like to
Yeah,
see
no,
that.
I get what you're saying. He has a very cinematic approach to his wrestling matches now. His matches are very the same. Um, since he became, the tribal chief.
Yep.
It's the same pattern. And again, back to the women's side, 7 matches would be, or whatever I listed off would be a record. But again,
They've
I
built the
don't want
backstories for it.
I don't want Becky and Charlotte to come back and like I think Charlotte should fight Tiffany at WrestleMania. And if Charlotte beats Tiffany, I don't care. I'm not mad. Because if Tiffany cashes in, this is the way it would have to play out. Tiffany cashes in next week and holds the belt all the way to Mania and
Yep.
loses to Charlotte. But at some point, she gets the better of Charlotte in that feud. Like Charlotte wins the first match. Hey, it's the mother beating the daughter. The wily veteran. Tiffany is a young pup. She doesn't know better. But eventually Tiffany beats her. And Tiffany takes the torch from her. And that's what it should be. Because again, Alexa Bliss has famously put this on Twitter. If Charlotte and I could have a kid, it's Tiffany.
I laughed for all the Charlotte fans that watch this show. Raj just booked another nice and tidy 40-day title range for for Charlotte, which is basically
Well,
all
I don't
you know.
want to do that for Charlotte, but
No,
I
it's just funny
want
because
her.
it
Yeah,
feels right.
and to fast forward the clock, I think next year's WrestleMania, the one in Minneapolis, I would do these. I'm booking ahead now. I would do these 3 women's matches right now. I would put it in stone, and I would try to figure out a way to get there. For one of the women's world titles, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley in the main event. For the other women's world title, Io versus Tiffany. Number 3 in the who is just the best 3-way, Becky versus Bailey versus Charlotte.
Mm,
For just you know, I got to know that I'm better than like people don't know this. Bailey has a winning record against Charlotte.
oh yeah,
She has a winning record against Charlotte. Becky has a winning record against Bailey. And I believe Charlotte has a winning record over Becky, although that could
right.
have changed recently.
It could have.
But historically, it is. And obviously, I don't think Sasha has a winning record against any of them.
No, Becky's only beat Sasha the twice.
Oh,
One
okay, okay.
one
So
by
she's
Sasha's got a huge winning record. Well, I guess in the 3-way she beat her too, but
so like to me, that would be my 3 prime WrestleMania matches for next year. And then I think by that point, you have Stephanie waiting as the first challenger for either the winner of Bianca Rhea or the winner of Tiffany Io.
yep.
Because I think eventually, I this is a prediction of mine. I think there's going to be a WrestleMania in Mexico City, and I think that WrestleMania is where you're going to get the crowning achievement of Stephanie Vaquer.
What a
Next
cool
year,
moment.
they've already said they're going to do a pay per view in Mexico. I
Yeah.
think she's winning
She's
the
got to be on
title.
it.
Yeah, she's no. I
Yeah.
think she's going to win the title at that show. Like
Yeah.
I truly believe when they took her under Tony's nose, they gave her stuff. Like they promised her stuff, and they've put it
Gave her a
like
vision.
yeah, they said we have plans for you because they never talk about Bailey as being Hispanic for some odd reason. Like they just don't
Right.
do it. And I think Zelina has had her moments, but Stephanie Vaquer,
Is there
to
female Rey
me,
Mysterio?
is the female Rey Mysterio, is going to be, I think she's going to be the biggest Latin WWE star, period. Men or women, male or female, she's going to be it. They already have a rocket, like it's under her suit that she wears. You just can't see it yet. And
Yeah,
they just tell her, when we want you to press the button, press the button. Because we haven't even talked about NXT yet, and I know we're gonna wrap here, but she beat Cora Jade clean in what I
yep,
thought was a good match. And they're already teasing a Kalani Jordan heel turn. And she's gonna maybe turn heel on Stephanie. And like Stephanie, they are positioning that her Julia is their Bianca Rhea is Triple H's dream match. HBK is doing Stephanie Julia. Like, this is it. This is your
yeah,
direction.
yeah.
And I think Stephanie's going to beat Julia when they have the match, because it feels like to me that even though Julia is going to get the title first,
Stephanie's
Stephanie is the
the end
one
game.
that, yeah, Stephanie is the one that they have maybe a little bit bigger plans for.
Yep,
And I think maybe Stephanie maybe doesn't get the NXT title. Maybe she just loses to go to the main roster.
yep. God, it's stacked. We don't, Becky, Charlotte coming back. We haven't talked about Asuka. She'll be back at some point. Shotzi just came back.
Yeah.
We'll maybe touch on that next week. She's got a group, Chemical X, which looks like it has some people seem to be excited about it. It's her, Gigi Dolan and Tatum, right? So, um, yeah, no, I think always more to talk about, but probably time to wrap it up. For those excited to hear, we will be recapping our top 10 um, matches of the year next week. Um, Probably going to do wrestler of the year at some point, top five or whatever in a couple episodes. But I think we'll focus on matches next week.
Yeah.
We're going to be normal and do by calendar year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So no weird September to September stuff. It's calendar year 2024. So that'll be fun to talk about. And any
And I
closing
think we've
thoughts?
well, I think we've already spoiled that list for our listeners and viewers, but and this is really tough for me to say that in a year where I feel like WWE has made so much positive strides with the women, how much time they get, how layered their storylines are, how laid out everything is. I am gonna have a hard time finding two main roster WWE matches to make my top 10 list. One is
I
already
t-
there, but
yeah,
I'm
one's
having
there.
trouble finding two.
I tweeted a week and a half ago. I don't want to miss something, and I tweeted. I said, "Hey, what are some WWE matches that you guys liked?" And a lot of really good matches and very short on great matches. A lot of really good
And
matches,
and this
short on great.
actually also includes who I honestly thought in September this was a runaway wrestler of the year was Roxanne. I thought it
Right.
was she was running away with it. Since September, I don't know, and I mean this. I love Roxanne. I don't know if any Roxanne match is going to make my top 10.
Right. I don't know.
So
It's tight.
it's going to be tough. So for me, that's the one piece that if WWE can just tweak, which is now their women have these killer matches on pay-per-view, then they're in a perfect spot. But from a storyline standpoint, from a character development standpoint, they're in the best place they've ever been in. My final thoughts are this. You attended a football game, not of your team last night. I'm sure that's not your first NFL game.
No. No.
No, okay. So, we always kind of end with football. And again, for me as an Eagles fan, I don't know what I'm watching today. And this is gonna be an interest, like I look at point spreads, and point spreads are derived from gamblers who know things that you're not supposed to know. And I look at this point spread and I say, okay, so the Eagles are 8.5 point favorites with their backup quarterback, who last week was gifted 5 turnovers and produced 12 points out of 5 turnovers with what many in the NFL media say is an all-star team on offense. You know, 2 of the 3 highest graded tackles in football, a top 5 center, top 5 guard on the other side, 2 number 1 wide receivers, a person who's challenging for the all-time rushing title, and we scored 12 points when Jalen Hurts went out of the game.
Yeah.
So how am I like, again, and this is where, and your quarterback gets this too. So I'm giving both of them their love, which is Goff in Detroit and obviously Jalen Hurts. Everybody thinks anybody could go into Detroit and run that offense. There, I got you, just pull a guy off the street. He can run that offense. No, he can't, because people aren't watching how great Jared Goff is with the play action pass. Like how he has fooled cameramen with how good he can do this. And Jared Goff throws a hell of a football, and it's accurate and it's on time. You can't just put anybody in there. The same thing with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, because of his running threat, is why Saquon Barkley gets breakaway lanes. Because the defense is like, do I go here or do I go here? Last week when Kenny Pickett can't run. All right,
he looked
Saquon.
like he did for the Giants.
Yeah, he was like, this is not great. What I signed up for.
All-time great.
Yeah. He's like, no. And I think there are some, like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson could absolutely come to Philadelphia and probably have as much success, if not more, than Jalen Hurts, because they can run too. So they can have the success in Philadelphia. I am not denying that. But last week, you saw how valuable a quarterback who you built your offense around can really be. So I don't know what I'm watching today. I have no expectations. This is probably going to be the most carefree Eagles game I watch in a long time. If they win, I'll be shocked. If they lose, I'm not shocked. We still have to, we're going to pretty much get the number 2 seed. All we have to do is beat the Giants next week or win today. I feel like the Giants are already tanking, so they don't care. So I think, next week we should win that game if we don't win this game. But I don't know. Like, you guys play San Francisco Monday night?
Tomorrow night, yeah. So we both
is that their Super Bowl? San Francisco's?
No. I don't think older teams get up for spoiling the way younger teams do. You know what I mean? Like, I think if they were 6
Arizona
and 8
last night.
Yeah, no, I think they're very injured, and I can't imagine. I think guys like Debo and all that just wish the season would just end at this point, because they've played for so many important games. I don't think they could. Not to say they won't beat us, but I think it would be more about us not showing up.
It would be one of the shocking NFL results to me if you guys lost to the Niners. The Niners can't stop the run at all. And I just don't see how they can stop Gibbs.
Yeah. So we both have a painful NFL day lined up, though, because you are worried about watching your Eagles. And my final thought is I have to root for the Packers today. So go Pack, go, I guess.
I mean, look, it's a business decision, right? Like you're rooting for the Packers because you need them. If they beat Minnesota, the Monday night game doesn't matter. It's over. Detroit, I think, gets the number 1 seed, right?
No. We have to win them. We have to win.
Oh, okay. So it's still, I don't know, man. Every time I watch Minnesota play, I'm waiting for the clock to ring midnight, because I feel like this is Cinderella. Like this, they remind me of the Case Keenum Vikings team, where when they lose, they're going to get blown off the field. Like and that's what happened to them against Philadelphia in the NFC title game, where they were winning by the skin of their teeth, and then they get to Philadelphia and they just got rolled. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen to Minnesota in the playoffs. Like they're going to get rolled, because you can't win every game like that. Like at some point it catches up with you. Today's going to be an interesting day of football, but I am excited for that Packers Vikings game, just because, there's 2 really hot teams. It's going to be the standalone game on Fox. It's good. And like I said, man, I don't care if we win 7-6 today. I just want the Eagles to win so they can rest everybody for week 18 and prepare for either the Commanders, the Falcons. I guess it could be the Seahawks still. I guess the Rams didn't clinch last night. Like, they need some scores to go their way.
No, the Seahawks need scores to go their way. There'd have to be
Oh,
like 10 results today to get the Seahawks back into it. So the Rams, they're 99 percentile clinch. They're
okay,
just not
okay.
100,
But
but
can the Seahawks still get a wild card spot? They can.
they can. Yeah, but a lot
Yeah,
of things
okay.
got to go their way.
Okay, so
Um,
there's a chance because as an Eagles fan, the team I want to play in the seventh seed, I want to play the Seahawks.
yeah, for sure.
That's who I want to play. Like I don't want to play the unknown. Well, I don't fear the Falcons, but Michael Penix is a wild card. I don't want to play the Commanders. And and people are gonna watch this and be like, what kind of an Eagles fan are you? We would mop the
Divisional.
floor with the Commanders. Yes, we were. Look, if you go back and watch last week's game, and I know we can end on this, the Eagles are going to win that game by 3 touchdowns. They were up. They
Right.
were pretty much going to be up 21-0. Like Jalen Hurts was in the game. They couldn't stop the run. We were going to run them out the gym, but we didn't. And when they
Anyone,
beat us, they have confidence now.
well, and anyone that knows football knows that a divisional playoff game is different than a regular playoff game, and it's
Yep.
tougher because it's the third time a team has seen you. Um, so yeah, we'll know a little bit more next week about all that. But hey, another all-time great Mercedes Moné match. We've got some really cool stuff coming up in WWE. Liv Rhea, Falls Count Anywhere, and appreciate y'all listening. Tune in next week for our top 10 matches of 2024.
Yes, the top 10 episode. See you guys next week.
See ya.